Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Itepwakuin of Itepwakuin's The Place to Be Reviews. I'm here with all of you September 13th, 1986. Saw the premiere of one of my favorite cartoons from childhood. Yes, this is part one of the I Love the 80s series. We are starting in 1986 because, well, guess what? That's where I want to start with Galaxy High School. Let's get into it, shall we?
To go to school at Galaxy High.
Stay tuned for Galaxy High. Saturday.
This is CBS.
Galaxy High School was a short-lived cartoon dealing with the exploits of Doyle and Amy, two Earthling students who are chosen to attend a high school in outer space, Amy for being a number one student, Doyle for being a failure, and this, we'll find out, his last chance to graduate. Their lives change around as Doyle hardly makes any friends, and Amy is the one who becomes popular. The two students befriend alien classmates and learn how to get along with them despite their differences. The original air date was September 13th, 1986. The final episode aired on December 6th, 1986 on the CBS network. It was originally created by Chris Columbus. Voice talents such as Hal Rail playing Doyle Cleverlobe, Susan Blue, Amy Brightower, Pat McCarroll, Miss Biddy McBrain, Howard Morris, Professor Eisenstein, Nancy Cartwright, yes, that Nancy Cartwright, Flat Freddie Fender, Jennifer Darling played Bowie Bubblehead, David L. Lander, Milo DeVenis, Gino Conforti, Ali Oilsley, Neil Ross, Rotten Roland, Guy Christopher, Earl Henry Gibson, Amy's Locker, John Stevenson played Beef Bonk, Danny Mann played the Creep, Pat Fraley, Coach Frogface, and Howard Morris, Luigi LeBouncy. Music by Don Felder of Fast Times in Ridgemont High, Heavy Metal, and Big Lebowski fame on the 1986 cartoon lineup on CBS. This is where Galaxy High fell in the schedule. 8 to 8 a.m., Berenstain Bears. 8:30, Wildfire. 9 a.m., Muppet Babies. 10 was the Galaxy High time slot. 10:30, Teen Wolf. 11 a.m., Pee-wee's Playhouse. 11:30, Puppy's Great Adventure. And 12 p.m., Hulk Hogan's Rockin' Wrestling. We start out with a great 80s style intro sequence that does two things. It sets up a lot of exposition that the pilot doesn't, how Doyle and Amy got to space, and their backstory, and gives us tonally how the episode will feel. Because when we start the pilot, Doyle and Amy are outside of the school and already in space, which makes me question how much was in the writer's room, and who decides that they wouldn't need astronaut gear to walk around in space on another planet's surface like they're in Anytown, USA. Don Felder did the music for the show, as I stated earlier, and you can clearly hear his style all over the title track, which I really love. Doyle and Amy are outside preparing to enter the school, and Doyle, who was a jock on Earth, so by 80s standards he was very popular, was telling Amy, the bookworm, she was unpopular, to stay away from him because he doesn't want her messing up his chances of becoming popular in Space High School too. He'll obviously soon regret this decision. As I stated, they're right outside of the school preparing to enter, and they get pulled into this giant tube system which is apparently used to navigate around campus, but obviously not much thought went into this system because how is this safe? You get sucked into a giant tube system like a big Kirby vacuum, flailing about wildly, and I'm just worried about them running into other students, getting smashed into the walls, or even when you arrive at your destination, how you're just ejected without a landing pad or any decrease in speed or trajectory. I probably shouldn't put too much thought into it, which my overly analytical brain tends to do, but then again, the writers were probably... After their tube trip, they're introduced to Milo DeVenis, who inexplicably has 6 arms yet is a nerdy-looking humanoid. They also meet their lockers. Amy's is voiced by Henry Gibson and is incredibly friendly and accommodating to her, whereas Doyle gets the racist anti-human locker. Who designed these? Farrakhan?
That's racist!
Also, as part of their initial campus tour and in wonderful 80s fashion, they visit a girls' gym class, which is taught by a mohawk-sporting, overly buff half-humanoid and space horse. Doyle thinks the girls will love him, but soon finds out that there's way more males than females, and Milo tells him that he's nothing special. This further deflates our cishet white male's character. Doyle will continually be shown over the course of this episode that his Earth popularity is not transferable to Galaxy High School, much like my credits from DeVry University in the 80s are not transferable to Harvard these days.
DeVry, we're serious about success.
Meanwhile, back in gym class, we're introduced to most of our main cast of recurring characters who befriend Amy and Doyle, and they're full of 80s tropes. We have Bowie Bubblehead, who's happy yet forgetful, Wendy, who's set up to be, albeit in a more kid-friendly way, almost Kim Cattrall-esque from Porky's, as the first thing she tells Amy outside of her first name is that she has a list ranking all the boys in their school on their, quote, dateability factor, and Gilda Gossip, who looks like a snork with a bunch of different mouths shooting off of her head. Oh yes, and she loves to gossip. Doyle is rather despondent due to his lack of attention received. Our next destination on our campus tour is Milo taking them to homeroom, where we meet Miss Biddy McBrain, who is the principal of Galaxy High. She gushes over Amy and then basically trashes Doyle in front of the class to the point where everyone laughs at him. Then summons the talking blackboard, which breaks down the fact that because Amy had an exemplary academic record on Earth, she gets a full ride scholarship and a space coupe de ville to get around in, and everyone applauds her. Much to the contrary, Doyle thinks he's going to receive much the same, probably because he's an entitled cishet white male colonizer, but much to his chagrin, he gets insulted, called irresponsible and lazy, and has to take a part-time job at Luigi's Lunar Pizza Parlor and given a 37-year-old space skateboard, and then the whole class laughs at him again. He laments he wants to go back to Earth, and Mrs. McBrain tells him that Galaxy High is his last chance to graduate. As he's moping around away from Milo and Amy, he runs afoul of the school's janitor, whom he pets, and it immediately turns into a hulking pink space monster. Milo saves him, and we find out that his name is Sludge, and he eats Earthlings, which is problematic and shows his implicit bias. We're then taken over to the high school cafeteria, where we meet some of our secondary characters who will play important parts in this show, as well as our main antagonist to Doyle. Back to Amy, Bowie, Gilda, and Wendy. A small yellow creature's flying around them, and he has a voice of a 1950s style crooner when he sings.
I'm the creep from the planet Sarabik.
I always loved how the 50s nostalgia played into the 80s media, especially looking back now in retrospect. But Creep is infatuated with Amy after she mistakenly compliments him. He locks a chain around her neck and says he's going to be with her all the time, which in all honesty is going to make her bathroom routine very uncomfortable. Doyle is lamenting his lack of popularity already as he and Milo are eating, and Doyle says he's going to go make some friends. He approaches a table of other, quote, kids, who turn out to be Beef Bonk Rotten Roland, who incessantly exclaims,
I love it! I love it!
and one more character who's a small blob resembling an oil slick or something, I don't know. And Doyle sits on him. Beef has a shirt on that says Earth stinks because... So Beef throws Doyle into a french fryer, which seems like a reasonable response, and Doyle is of course turned to french fries. But this gives us an opening to meet another member of our faculty as Milo rushes Doyle to him because he can turn Doyle back into a human and not a deep-fried salted mountain of potato-based goodness. So without further ado, we meet Professor Eisenstein, who immediately tries salting and eating Doyle. The professor works in a lab that is kept cold because he originates from the planet Froster, and if it's not kept cold, he'll melt. So he pops Doyle into his MacGuffin, molecular reconstructor, and Doyle is as good as new. The girls then take Amy, quote, style shopping, which is basically her culturally appropriating another skin color because when asked what color she wants to be when she goes through the cultural appropriation machine, she says,
Color. Blue.
And to be fair, there was a bunch of other aliens that appropriated other alien colors as well, so I don't know, you be the judge here. Then when Amy reveals her new color, all the girls marvel at her white privilege. Meanwhile, at Luigi's Lunar Pizzeria, Doyle tries to serve a couple of fish a pizza with anchovies on it. And Luigi is just another space Italian who's a stereotype that we can laugh at during the show.
What's the matter for you, Earth boy?
He got a 6 of arms.
You motherfuckers!
Doyle goes to dance with Amy, but Beef cuts in, which leads to them playing a game of Zugglerball over Amy against her will. That's problematic. If you're wondering, Zugglerball is hockey with a live puck. Of course, Rotten Roland is the referee because he's Beef's homie. But Doyle eventually wins because Amy yells at him to, quote, play football, and he does. Beef is the loser, and now Doyle has the admiration of the entire school in typical 80s fashion, but at least his locker isn't racist to him anymore. While standing by their lockers having a conversation, Amy plays Doyle, makes him think she'll go out with him on Friday. When he says he'd love a date, she says, good, you can go out with Gilda Gossip, who conveniently comes out of nowhere and sexually assaults him, kissing him without consent. Doyle says, I'll get you for this, Amy, and that's where we leave off. Until next week when Doyle accidentally murders another student. But that's next time. Yes, we'll pick up episode 2 with Doyle becoming a murderer unknowingly on Galaxy High. I'm Etepakuit of the Place to Be Reviews. I've been here with all of yous. And until next time, remember, if I don't see you, have a great day, a pleasant tomorrow, and I'll catch you on the next one.